Hey guys, it's Trey here once again with another API Gateway tutorial. In the last tutorial, we added our EJS view rendering engine. So in this video, we're going to actually start to put out this service information on the screen in the browser. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go to our gateway.js file, and if we scroll down to our UI endpoint, we can go here and we can add in a parameter that's going to have our service information in it. So what we're going to do is create a new object. We're going to call the services, and then for the actual data that is going in here, we're going to get that from this registry object. So if we come back down here and we do our registry, we want to get the services. So that's basically going into this registry.json file and grabbing this whole services object out of here. So we're passing that back to our EJS file. We do that by adding the second parameter, and whatever's in this object here is what's getting passed to our EJS file. So if we save this, we can go over to our index.ejs file, and I'm going to actually erase this and change it to a p tag, and then I'm going to basically just print out that whole object in JSON format. So the way we print things out using EJS is we need to add a special tag, and then anything within that tag will get rendered onto the screen. But within this tag, we can go ahead and use JavaScript, so we don't have to put HTML in this inside of this tag. So basically, we need to do an opening angle bracket. We need a %sign, and then we need to put an equal sign. And then to close the tag out, we need a % with a closing angle bracket. And then inside of these tags, we can go ahead and put some JavaScript. So what we're going to do is we're going to do json.stringify, and then we're going to pass in services. The services comes from what we passed in this gateway.js right here. So that's what we're getting, and we're going to print that out onto the screen using these tags. So if I save this and we run this, we're going to do npm run dev. All right, let's go to our browser, and inside of our browser, if I refresh this page, we can see that we are getting that object. So basically, this is our registry services object. So we're going to take this information and print it out onto the screen in basically a better looking way. It's not going to be, super pretty, but it's going to basically just display the information in a decent way. So let's go ahead and go back to our code, and I'm going to keep this p tag here until we get done so I can show you where the information is coming from as I'm doing this. And then once we get all the information displayed on the screen, I'll erase this. But I'm going to leave it up here for right now for reference. All right, so we can go ahead and begin writing up the markup. So I'm just going to create a outside container div. And inside of here, we're going to have, let's just do an h1 tag that says API Gateway Services. Then under here, we're going to have another div, which is just going to be the services. All right. So inside of here, we're going to loop through all of the services that we have. So as we know right now, we only have this one object, this registry test object. This is the only service that we have registered, but we can have multiple here. So we're going to need to loop through each one and get all of the information so that we can put it on the screen. So the way we're going to do this is kind of similar to how we did on line 10 up here, where we had this opening tag, but the only difference is we're not going to use this equal sign. So when you use the equal sign with the tag, then that means that you want whatever's inside of that tag to be rendered onto the screen. But right now, we just want to do a loop. So we want to use JavaScript, but we don't want to print that JavaScript onto the screen. So we do this by just omitting that equal sign. So I'm going to demonstrate here. We're going to do %, and then we're going to do a % with a closing. So no equal sign. And then inside of here is where we can do our loop. So we're going to need to get each one of the keys from this services object. So we're going to do that by doing object.keys. My mistake. We're going to do object.entries. And then we're going to do services. So the entries is basically going to get the key and the value. So what we're going to need to do now is once we get that, we need to loop. So we're going to do dot for each. And then inside of here, we're going to call this service. And then we're going to open up our function. Now we don't want to put the closing tags in here because we need to do that underneath. So I'm going to go down here and then we're going to do percent and then do the closing tag. And then we're going to close out the functions that way. So now in between these two is where we're going to actually put out some HTML and, you know, actually have stuff that renders to the screen. But we're going to use the different services to do that. So this is how you write out a loop using EJS. So in between here, right now we're just going to print out the name. So I'm going to have a div. We're going to call it info group. And then inside this info group, we're going to have an H4, and it's going to say name. And then we're going to have, let's make it a P tag, and then we're going to open up our tag with the equal sign because we want this to render onto the screen. And then we're going to put service 0 so we get that first index. All right, so let's see if this works. So I saved that. Let's go back to our browser. I'm going to refresh, and as you can see, we have our API Gateway Services. Then we have this name, and then now we're printing out the registry test, which is this right here. So next, we're going to want to print out this load balance strategy. And then after the load balance strategy, we're going to want to print out all of the instances. So let's go ahead and do the load balance strategy next. So if we go back to our code, we can go underneath this info group, and we're going to create another info group. All right. Inside of here, we're going to have another H4, but this one's going to be load balance strategy. And then we're going to do a P tag. And then also we're going to percent equals like we did last time. And then inside of here, we're going to do service 1 and then dot load balance strategy. This should go ahead and print out our load balance strategy. So if we go back to our browser and refresh, now we have our load balance strategy, which is round robin. All right, so next up is our instances. So underneath this info group, we're going to have a div called with a class of instances. So inside of this instances div, we need to go ahead and actually print our instance. So we're going to need another loop here. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up another tag. Inside of this tag, we're going to need to go service, and then we're going to get the first index. Then we're going to do dot instances. We're going to do dot for each. Then we're going to pass in an instance and an index. And then we open that up and go to a new line, open a new set of tags, and then close this out. So we're going to do that. So now we're looping through the instances. If we go back to our browser here, we can see that we're going and we're getting that first index, and then inside of here we're grabbing this instances, and then we're looping through those, which we only have 2 at this moment. All right. So let's go back to our code and then print out that information. So here we're going to have another div. I'm going to call it an instance group. And then inside of this instance group, we're going to have a label. It's going to be for, let's see, what information do we want? I think all we're going to need to get from here is this URL and if it's enabled. So that's all we're going to get from here is the URL and if it's enabled. All right, so let's go back to our code and we're going to call this for URL. It's going to say URL. Then we're going to have p tag name URL. Then inside of this p tag, we need to go ahead and add our opening. Don't forget the equal sign because we want this to be rendered. So inside of here, we need to go ahead and get the instance and then get the URL. And then above this, I think I want to add another got to add the instance. Actually, this is, yeah, I'll still make it. All right, and then I'm just gonna have a label in here, and this label is just gonna be the index. So inside of here, we're going to do equals and then closing tag, and then we're just going to put the index. And last but not least, we need to go ahead and add if it's going to be enabled. So we're going to do an instance group. Then inside of here, we'll have a label for enabled, and then we're going to say enabled. Then we'll have a p tag. Inside of this p tag, let's set the name to enabled, and then we'll open up a new set of tags. Inside of here, we're going to put instance dot enabled. This should allow us to see if we refresh. All right, so now we have our instances with the index. Let's actually add a couple of things here. So for this instances, above the for loop, we're going to add in, what are we doing? Looks like an H4. And then we're just going to say instances, or we'll say registered instances. All right. So that should add that. And then we also want to, when we put this index, we're just going to add 1 so it doesn't start at 0. All right, so let's go back to our browser and do a refresh. All right, so now we see that it says register instances here, has the index and also the URL, and then enable is true for each one of these. So this is pretty much how we're going to want to do this. We have all this information up here. All here looks better than just printing out the JSON. So let's go ahead and actually I'll just end this tutorial here, and then in the next video we'll go ahead and actually style this stuff, make it look a little bit better. And then, you know, just a quick styling. It's not going to be anything special. You can style this however you want. I just really wanted to show you guys how to get this information from that file into the browser. So pretty much that is done. We can do some basic styling in the next tutorial, and I believe that'll be it. You guys remind me if there's anything that you feel like I missed, or if there's anything you want to know how to do with this API gateway, or any features you want me to add. If not, then we will be ending this series in the next video. So the next video, just styling, and that is it. It's over with. unless you guys tell me in the comments that you want something else, that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe to the channel and all that jazz, and I will see you guys in the next video.